Hi guys, and welcome to my new video. Finally I can talk about the brand new camera from Olympus, or I should better say OM system now. I had the chance to test the OM-1 this January, and what I think about the camera and if it really deserves to be the wow, I will let you know in the next minutes. So let's start straight away with my review about the OM-1 in wildlife photography. Let's go. First, before I start with my review, I would like to thank OM Digital Solutions for giving me the opportunity to test this camera for them. It's a big honor for me, and I was so excited when I finally get this camera in my hands and to go out and make my first pictures. I had this camera only for a short time, and because of that I was focused mainly on wildlife photography. But I wanted to find out if this camera really deserves the wow factor. There are so many new things in the OM-1, like for example a completely new sensor, a new processor, a stronger battery, a clear viewfinder, a completely new menu, an improved weather sealing, and we've got now up to 50 frames per second with continuous AF, and of course 4K in 60p and. When I was talking to Olympus in the past and they asked me what would you like to have in the new camera, I had mainly two things which were very important for me in wildlife photography, and this is the overall image quality in the higher ISO range. So what I mean by that is above 1600 ISO I would like to have less noise, more dynamic range, and just an overall better image quality. Secondly, there is the AF system. I was quite happy with the old one. For me it was fast enough to do my pictures, but if I would wish for improvement in the AF, I would say there was the tracking, or let's say following a subject with changing speed and direction or coming directly towards me. I would like to have an AF that can follow this much better and get some better results. When I hold the camera for the first time, of course I was very excited because I immediately feel there are many changes in this camera. For example, the body size is kind of an AM1 Mark III, but with the grip of the X. So you have this small, perfect body and with the grip of the X. For me, that is the perfect combination in a small camera. The buttons and dials on the OM-1 are almost the same as the AM1 Mark III, but there is a new one at the back of the camera, and this is the AF on button. So for everybody who loves to have a back focus button, here we go, there is one on the new camera. And there is the new battery, and the new one should last up about 520 pictures. Well, I was testing the camera in the mountains and I had about -10 to -15 degrees. I had my AM1 Mark III and the new OM-1, and the battery life of the AM1 Mark III ended up about 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And the new battery of the OM-1 was lasting from 6 o'clock in the morning to about 5:30 in the afternoon when the sun already went down. So I think there is a big improvement in the weather sealing, of course, of the camera, and also in the battery life of the OM-1. The new viewfinder of the OM-1 has 5.76 million pixels, and because of that it looks crystal clear, and even faster movements are now much more visible than before. A big change in the OM-1 is also the new menu system, and I think that's a huge improvement from the other cameras. You now have a horizontal menu and it's divided between different colors, and everything now is in the right place. Everything what belongs to the AF system is in the menu AF. For example, before I had to search the focus peaking in one menu and the focus peaking color in the other one. So that has changed completely. Let's start with the image quality of the new OM-1. Let me tell you straight away, the image quality is so much better than before, because we have a new 20 megapixel back illuminated stacked sensor, which gives us +2 stops less noise and +1 stop improvement in dynamic range, which I think it's huge. But let me show you some pictures what I did with the camera. For me, the improvements are very much visible. And I think I never had an Olympus camera or any other Micro Four Thirds camera in my hand with such a great image quality. Before, I was using the camera not so much above 1600 ISO, and that was not only because of the noise, it was more because of the less dynamic range that I get in the higher ISO. But let me show you my focus picture again. As you can see, there was not much light left, and the focus was just running for a few seconds on that perfect spot. And I was using 5000 ISO without thinking about noise or image quality. You know, in this situation, I was on my way home, and I just could see on the left side of my eye, I could see something running around, and I just reacted. I didn't have time to change all the settings in the camera. So the only thing what I did at this moment, I reacted to the situation. I pushed up the ISO, and then I just put the camera up onto my eye and just did the picture, and the camera did the job perfectly. And that for me is the perfect wildlife tool, because the camera can react on everything what I face. I can understand, maybe some of you wished for a higher resolution, but let me tell you this. This camera, the combination of the 20 megapixel and an improvement in the ISO and dynamic range, I think that's the perfect combination of resolution and overall image quality. Even when you don't have good light and dark conditions, whatever you're gonna face, you can do it with this camera. The OM-1 comes with a new AF system, and we're talking about now 1053 AF points. And they added also a new AF technology, and they call it cross-quad pixel AF technology. Well, that sounds pretty fast to me. The OM-1 has almost the same AF groups as the AM-1X and the AM-1 Mark III. Only the small AF point, it's not a single one anymore. You have 9 smaller AF points in it that helps you to focus. And of course, one very tiny AF point. But how fast is the new AF system? I can say straight away there are 2 big improvements. First of all, it can follow a subject much better with changing speed and directions. And secondly, I believe that the camera has improved in low light situations as well. So in that picture you can see a gray heron is flying directly towards me. It was before sunrise, so still pretty dark, but the focus managed it to follow the bird when it was flying towards me, and it was dark, so it almost no light, no help for the AF system, and I think that's a great improvement. When I was photographing birds that are flying around, and I had the AM-1X and the Mark III, I knew that usually I change the continuous AF setting, the sensitivity to +1 or even +2. And with the OM-1 I completely forgot it. So I left the continuous AF sensitivity to 0, and I used the camera with the continuous AF, with the bird tracking, without the bird tracking, and it works perfectly. So I had these pictures kind of like the one before with bad light when the bird was coming towards me. I had the changing of speed, directions, and the camera managed to focus every time perfectly. I'm really happy about this AF now, and it works perfectly fine. Talking about the bird detection, we have something new in the camera. So before we had the bird detection, the cars, the airplanes and the trains. Now we have something for cats and dogs. Of course, in wildlife I didn't search for cats and dogs, but I tried it in the mountains with ibex or chamois. And with one animal I was very lucky. And I tried this new AF system with the recognition of a cat and a dog, and I have to say it worked pretty good. It was analyzing the animal and then it was going to the head. And I almost forgot to tell you that we have an improvement in frames per second. With the mechanical shutter, of course, we still have the 10 frames per second, which is way enough for me. But if you use the electronic one, you have now 50 frames per second with continuous autofocus. And that means a lot of pictures when you come home. Just imagine you press the shutter button for more than 5 seconds and you have 50 frames per second. That's going to be tough to edit at the end. In my previous Olympus cameras there are 2 options which I like to use a lot of time, and that's the built-in ND filter and the high resolution shot. In the ND filter they added a new ND64. With that picture I was using the new built-in ND64. I had an exposure of 60 seconds and of course a tripod. And I think it looks pretty amazing, everything done in the camera. And that's actually one of my rare pictures where I was using a tripod with an OM system camera. The high resolution mode, well, I used this mode mainly for landscape pictures before, and that's because in wildlife photography you don't want to miss a shot when something happens, and the calculation time of the high-res shot was a little bit too long for that. But now the high-res mode is so much faster and I will definitely use it for some animal portraits. But let me show you something what I did with the high-res mode in the OM-1. In the first picture I choose this frame because of the dark water, the reflection, the contrast of the white bird. And with the 50 megapixel without a tripod, you can see all the details of the nature in the branches and it just looks incredible. On my second picture that I took in the mountains, there was this beautiful cold morning with fresh snow on the trees. And together with the shadows and the light coming from the side, you can see every single detail. It's just incredible. And if I zoom a little bit into the image, you can even see traces from some animals. So overall, I think it's not just faster, it's also a better quality with the new OM-1 and makes it definitely usable for me for my wildlife photography. My conclusion to the new camera, well, I think you could already hear my excitement about the OM-1. And I really think it deserves to be the wow camera. I mean, they upgraded almost everything in the camera. You have a new sensor, you have a better image quality, you have a faster AF system, a better weather sealing, a bigger battery, a new menu system, and they added so many features. I just love this new tool and it gives me new opportunities and a new flexibility to photographing in wildlife. So that was my review about the OM-1 in wildlife photography. I hope I could make you a little bit excited about the new camera, at least as excited as I am. If you have any questions about the camera, about some settings or about my pictures, what I did with the new camera, just leave me your questions in the comment section below the video. I will try to answer all of your questions, of course. Thanks for watching my video. If you like to support me, please follow my channel, like the video, share it, whatever you want to do. And I wish you always good light. See you next time in one of my reviews or my adventures in wildlife. Bye bye.